We are back for another deep dive into a major Walking Dead character. This week we're covering Rosita Espinosa. And no, I am not Woody Tondorf. He's off fighting dirty diapers on paternity leave and will be back in a few short weeks. I'm Johnny Odell, the guy who writes these things and controls the Walking Dead social media handles like the Wizard of Oz drunk on the blood of the lollipop guild. Faced with no narrator, I only had one option.
I'll do it myself.
I'm Johnny Odell, and this is I See Dead People. Let's start with the comics. We first meet Rosita in issue 53, when she, Eugene, and Abraham get held at gunpoint by Andrea during a supply mission. Rick arrives, also armed, and Eugene de-escalates the situation by revealing they're on a mission to DC to solve the case of that pesky zombie bug going around. Also to see if there's really a coded map on the back of the Declaration of Independence. We later find out that the three of them were part of a much larger survival group that started in Texas. You see, in those times, Rosita would help the men in exchange for protection. Kind of like how Satine would help men in Moulin Rouge. Yeah! When she meets Abraham, she's relieved to know he's not that kind of guy, despite the mustache. But he got that help anyway when the two eventually formed a romantic relationship. Eventually, we find out Eugene was lying about the cure stuff, but they resolve it. They eventually make it to the Alexandria safe zone, where Rosita moves into Abraham's house, becomes a nurse, and gets very involved in the homeowners association. Just when everything seems normal, Abraham decides to cheat on Rosita with Holly, justifying it by saying Rosita's no longer the last woman on Earth. Ouch. After surviving the horde attack on Alexandria, Rosita decides to move out and stay with Eugene in the friend zone. Population Eugene. Unfortunately, Rosita and Abraham never get back together because he gets shot in the head quicker than Ciri's father in The Witcher. After Alexandria falls, Rosita relocates to Hilltop, gets closer to Eugene, and helps fight against the Saviors after his capture. After they win the war, Rosita tells Eugene she's pregnant, and you are not the father. The real father, Sadiq. But we never get to see baby Coco, or whatever she was going to be called, because Rosita gets decapitated by Alpha like that monster in The Witcher. Look, I'm getting through The Witcher right now, and it is very entertaining. Let's move on to the much more badass and less decapitated version of Rosita you know and love from the show. We first meet the perfectly cast Christian Serratos at the very end of Season 4, Episode 10, Inmates, when she, Eugene, and Abraham encounter Glenn and Tara. Like the comics, they came from Texas and are the lone members of a survival group traveling to DC under the false pretenses that Eugene could help find the cure. I bet he can't. Rosita also falls in love with Abraham, which helps him cope with the death of his family. Unlike the comics, she doesn't exchange sex for protection. Instead, she uses her military and engineering background, along with her deep knowledge of the history of mustache oil, to keep her alive. After a confrontation, Rosita gives Glenn a picture of Maggie that she found and vows to help him and Tara find her. They miraculously do, along with Bob and Sasha, and head to Terminus, which doesn't look anything like the Airbnb ad at all. And you know what happens next. Carol blows it up, Rick and the gang save them, and Rosita helps them escape. Soon after, they meet and save Father Gabriel, whose church goes to hell faster than that scene in The Kingsman. Satisfying. Now after the church massacre of the Hunters, Rosita, Abe, and Eugene bring Maggie, Glenn, and Tara along for a trip to DC. Unfortunately, the bus crashes and they get attacked by walkers, forcing them to hole up in a bookstore. Rosita treats Abraham's wounds and the area above his thighs, all while Eugene watches in the self-help section. The next day, tensions boil over when she and Abe argue over how to avoid the herd. Making matters worse, Eugene admits he made up the DC story to survive, should have taken notes from comic Rosita, and Abraham beats him harder than Christian Bale in Equilibrium. They eventually reunite with everyone at Grady Memorial Hospital, just in time to see Daryl carrying Beth's body out of it. A few episodes later, after almost dying in a barn, they arrive at Alexandria thanks to the scout who sounds a lot like Red Skull from Endgame. Like the comics, Rosita's interviewed and asked to be a medical assistant. And then things are pretty normal, Rosita helps Michonne discover Sasha's weird obsession with walkers, she patches Rick up after his fight with Pete, and forces Abraham and Eugene to finally settle their differences. I would just watch this Alexandria sitcom, honestly, we don't even need the zombies. Rosita also helps Rick with his plan to lure walkers away from Alexandria. When the wolves invade, Rosita helps Denise treat people and then kills some wolves herself, kind of like Liam Neeson in The Grey. She then trains the Alexandrians how to fight just in time for the horde to invade the town.
Hey.
Rosita helps fight them off, all to be left by Abraham for Sasha a few days later.
When I first met you, I thought you were the last woman on Earth. You're not.
So, what do you do after your man breaks up with you?
The hell?
You kill a bunch of enemies in your sleep and hook up with Spencer. I know, very specific. Rosita and Daryl then go on an orange supply mission with Denise, who gets shot through the eye by Dwight's arrow. That's Abraham's comic death. After they rescue Eugene from the Saviors, Rosita watches over him at the infirmary. Later, Rosita and Daryl are captured by the Saviors while trying to rescue Glenn and Michonne. Oh boy, we know what's happening next.
Pissing our pants yet?
They're taken to the infamous Negan lineup, where Abraham is brutally beaten with Lucille. Negan realizes he had a thing with Rosita, so he taunts her with his bloody bat, causing Daryl to retaliate. This then leads to Glenn's death and Negan's departure, leaving Rosita and Sasha to comfort each other and argue over whose fault Glenn's death was. It was Daryl's. When Negan arrives to Alexandria for his supplies, he and his men are complete dicks. Dwight takes Rosita's hat and gun. You don't do that. And she and Spencer leave to retrieve Daryl's motorcycle from the woods. She grabs a gun off a dead Savior corpse and then tells Eugene that night to
make me a bullet.
So out of fear and horniness, he does. And when they return home, Negan's there. Oh boy. He guts Spencer in a very satisfying sequence, causing Rosita to shoot Negan point blank.
What the shit?
And her act of defiance results in a cut on her face and the death of Olivia. Eugene takes blame for the bullet like the man he is and gets captured. Rosita accompanies Rick and the gang to Hilltop, Kingdom, and later the Junkyard to convince their leaders to join the fight against the Saviors. Also on the way, we learn Rosita can disarm tripwires and bombs. After the leaders hesitate to help them, Rosita and Sasha decide, fuck it, we're gonna do a double suicide mission, free Eugene and kill Negan, mostly kill Negan. If Eugene escapes, great, not the point of the mission. After a heavy exposition-filled heart-to-heart, Sasha decides to lone wolf it, leaving Rosita to flee. She encounters Dwight, who asks her to take him to Rick. She does, and she convinces the gang to trust him for now to get Sasha back. I mean, we have no other options. When Negan, Eugene, and the Saviors arrive, Rosita tries to bitty bomb them to Kingdom Come. That's a Selena reference, but it doesn't work. Jadis turns against them, Shiva kills this guy in a blue mocap suit, and Rosita gets shot as Rick finally wins a battle against the Saviors. Time for all-out war! Rosita plays a huge part in the battles and strategy, encouraging them to be more strategic and careful. Also, Rosita and Daryl try to rescue Eugene, but he vomits on Rosita, hides in an ash pile, and returns to Negan. Thankfully, it turns out that Eugene was on their side the whole time. He rigs the Savior's weapons, Rick slits Negan's throat, and that is the end of the series. Oh fuck, we have seasons 9 and 10. Okay, let's finish this strong. After a small time jump, we see Rosita running shit with Daryl at the Sanctuary. That doesn't last very long because the Saviors start mysteriously disappearing. They solve the case, it was Oceanside, and later Rosita's there when Rick seemingly blows himself up in the Horde on a bridge. We jump 6 years into the future, where Rosita and the gang find a much older looking Judith, eating her carrots I see, helping Magna and her crew. Gabriel, who's now dating Rosita, why not, encourages her and Eugene to set up a radio signal to reach out to other communities. Also to see if we can still pick up Sirius XM. Someone's still gotta be playing it. After setting it up, they get trapped and separated by a horde of seemingly talking walkers. Aaron and Jesus rescue her and vow to find Eugene. Eugene returns to Hilltop and tries confessing his love for Rosita, causing her to vomit. Natural reaction. Turns out she's pregnant, and Eugene, you are not the father. Gabriel, you are not the father.
You're a liar, you know you are!
It's Sadiq. Later, Rosita's present for the Kingdom Fair, which goes off without a hitch, except for the controversial heads-on-sticks food. Too soon. A few months later, Rosita and the gang hole up in a snowstorm, to which Negan mocks her love quadrangle.
It's like Christmas to me.
After another small time jump, Rosita gives birth to Sadiq's child, #baby Coco, and takes up boxing. She helps the residents fight off Alpha's walker waves and tells Eugene to cool it with the baby measuring. After this mysterious dude named Dante arrives in town, Rosita becomes dangerously ill. Turns out Dante's a secret whisperer and has been poisoning the water supply. Like Sasha, Sadiq gets one last heart-to-heart, aka the show's kiss of death, before getting murdered by Dante for discovering his secret. Dante then tries to kill Rosita and Coco, but she says not today and knocks him out. Gabe then murders Dante in a cell and then secretly burns his body with Rosita in the dead of night. Find you a man who does that for you. When Gamma arrives to make peace in Alexandria, Rosita knocks her out cold and locks her up. But later, she and Gabe hear her sob story and begin to trust her. When Beta invades the town and tries to kill Judith and RJ, Rosita steps in. She battles Beta, who nearly kills her until Gamma shows up and saves them. She then travels to Hilltop, where she finds Eugene has been talking to another woman.
Stephanie!
Being the mean popular girl she is with him, she mentally mindfucks him by offering to kiss him, to which he refuses, saying he cares for Stephanie. You know, good on you, Eugene. Move on. Later, she and the others help fight the Whisperers in the Battle of Hilltop, and are able to escape to the rendezvous point. She encourages Eugene to tell them about Stephanie, so he does, causing them to head off towards probably Commonwealth.
You think they'll have candy?
We'd tell you more, but we'd have to wait for the finale, and if she survives it, season 11. As you can see, Rosita plays a much bigger and badass role in the show than in the comics. She has inspired amazing cosplays, Funkos, merchandise, and the reason for Netflix to cast Christian Serratos as Selena in their upcoming series. She has been an inspiration to girls and women everywhere, and we are so thankful to have her in the Walking Dead family. And that wraps up this week's episode of I See Dead People. What are your favorite Rosita moments? Before we wrap up, we support the Black Lives Matter movement and encourage you guys to help in any way you can. We at Skybound are personally donating to Color of Change, Black Lives Matter LA, and People City Council LA Freedom Fund. We encourage you guys to help in any way you can, and we've provided some helpful links below in the description. I'm Johnny Odell. You're only going to have to suffer through me for a few more weeks, and we'll see you next time.